Hello everyone, welcome to Deepti's biology class. We are starting class 10 biology classes now. Here I have made the lesson into two parts, introduction and explanation. Let's start with our introductory part of the chapter, that is life process. So here we are starting with a question, what are life processes? So all living things are called organisms, which include both plants as well as animals, or it can include other living organisms. But how can we decide whether something is living or non-living? This is depending on 7 life processes. In simple way, we can say that life processes are those processes which decide whether something is living or non-living. Here those important 7 life processes, just as an introduction or a definition, is mentioned here. So let's just quickly go through that. So the first one is movement. Movement is exhibited by both animals as well as plants. They are almost all living organisms have the ability to move. Plants are rooted, still they show some kind of movement with its own axis. Their roots show some growth into the soil. Stems grow towards the sunlight or towards the light. Animals, on the other hand, they can move quickly from one place to another. You might have studied the difference between locomotion and movement, right? Movement is change in direction on the single axis. And what about this locomotion? Is the movement from one place to another, which can move the entire body. If you look at this image, you can see living organism can move. They can move in search of food, shelter, or to avoid the danger. Second character which is exhibited by the living organism is respiration. What is respiration? Many a time what happens, we get confused respiration with breathing. Majority of you have this confusion all the time. Breathing is a part of a respiration. Now what is meant by respiration? You breathe in oxygen. This oxygen is used to break down the glucose which is present in your each and every cell. After this breakdown, energy is generated. This entire process we call as respiration. So respiration is the process of extracting energy out of the food which we eat. Suppose this is a cell in your body. There is glucose which we get after the digestion. Now this glucose get combined with the oxygen which you breathe. What it releases? First it releases the energy and also it releases the carbon dioxide. We will study in detail. This is just as an introduction I am telling. So now in our cell what all things are utilized? Glucose and oxygen. What it is released? Energy and carbon dioxide. So intake of oxygen, releasing of carbon dioxide is a part of this entire process. We call it as respiration. I told you respiration takes place in every cell, where exactly within the mitochondria of the cell this process of respiration takes place. So let's read this one. Respiration is the process of extracting energy out of the food we eat. All living things respire because they need energy to grow. To replace burnout cells of the body. If you cannot read, I rub it. So to replace burnout parts of the body and to move we need energy. And where do respiration takes place? Respiration takes place in the mitochondria of the cell. That is the reason we say that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. I hope you all know what is mitochondria, so I am not explaining it. Now the third character is sensitivity. Sensitivity means we all are aware what happens around us. So whatever change happens in our surrounding, we are able to understand that, right? So whether it is a heat, it is a light, sound, touch, chemical, whatever it is, it can be a taste or smell, we are able to identify that, right? Because we are sensitive. Not only animals, even plants can also be sensitive, but their sensitivity is slower than us. So here is the diagram which I have shown for movement. Another one is for respiration, and the third one is sensitivity. If you look at this person, surrounding maybe a winter season or something, protected well because the person is aware about what happens around, right? So next is growth. Next character is growth. All living organisms show growth. If you look here, you can see one baby and maybe the grandfather, which means from this younger generation to the older generation, all living organism shows growth. Plants continue to grow throughout their life, but animals stop growing once they reach their adulthood. That means in case of plant, growth is unlimited. In case of animals, growth is limited one. Now, within animal's body, what happens? This growth is from inside. So this you have to remember. Sometime you might have heard that some mountains and everything, they are also growing. But please remember, when the mountain is growing, suppose this is the mountain, if this mountain is growing, actually the materials are added on the mountain. But when you talk about a person or someone who is growing into in a larger size, the meaning is that this growth is from inside. On non-living thing, if the growth is there, that is from outside. But when we talk about growth of an organism, the growth which takes place from within, that is very important thing. Growth in case of animal, it is not external. The growth which happens from inside using the food, right? So growth is exhibited by living organism. Now next character is that excretion. So excretion means as we take food, we have metabolism and everything. There, of course, there will be waste which is produced. Here we are talking about the waste which contain nitrogen acid component mainly. So we say nitrogenous waste. So what happens? We have metabolism. What is meant by metabolism? All the reaction which takes place in our body, we call it as metabolism. After metabolism, what happens? Some waste are produced in our blood. When it is produced, it is not a problem for the body, but once we allow this waste to accumulate in our body, it will be converted into poisonous and it may lead to lethargic or it may lead to death of the organism. So at a regular interval, there need to be got rid of, otherwise it will be harmful. So this is the process. Excretion is the process of getting rid of metabolic waste. So what happens in plants? Plants store these waste in their leaf and waste is removed when they shed their leaf. So please remember this statement. What is excretion? Excretion is the process of getting rid of metabolic waste. How do plants remove the waste? They store the waste in their leaves and that is removed when their leaves fall off. Now what about animals? Animals breathe out the waste in the form of carbon dioxide, substances like urine, sweat, all these form. Mainly the nitrogenous waste is excreted by human being through the excretory system, which includes our kidney and entire urinary system. The main excretory waste of higher animals are urine. Now please make this note, that is, getting rid of fecal matter or undigested food is not excretion. Remember, fecal matter is excreted out, is a part of egestion, not excretion. Undigested food is a part of the process of digestion. So many a time this can be your confusion. When the fecal matter is that undergo egestion, right? Excretion includes the nitrogenous waste or the waste which are produced as a result of metabolism. Fecal matter is as a result of the process of digestion. It's not a process of metabolism within our blood or anywhere, right? Hope this is clear, right? So next, sixth character which we have included here is reproduction. All living things must produce its offspring like themselves. Why? For the continuity of the generation. So this process we call it as reproduction. Plants reproduce by producing seeds. That is the reason when you plant the seed, it will grow as a new organism, right? New plant, right? What about animals? They may lay eggs. They can even have the babies also. So reproduction is divided into two types, which are the sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, what happens? There will be two parents involved, and both these parents produce their gametes or sex cells, and they unite together to form the zygote. These all things you have already studied. We will study it in detail also. In asexual reproduction, what happens? There will be single parent involved, and this single parent is going to reproduce itself. So the baby which is produced, or the young one which is daughter cells which are produced, will be identical to this parent cell. Now the next one which we are discussing here is nutrition. So what is nutrition? Nutrition is the way by which we obtain our food or obtain our energy. This different way we can define. So the main source of energy which we can say for living organism here in nutrition is photosynthesis, which is performed by the plants to make their own food. So what happens? How do the plants make their own food? Using the raw materials, right? So what are the materials they are using? Sunlight is required. Sunlight they use. Carbon dioxide they use. Water. All these things are used to make the complex carbohydrate molecule. These carbohydrate molecules. Then what happens? All animals, they are depending on plants for their food. You have studied now these autotrophs and heterotrophs. Plants are autotrophs because they are able to perform photosynthesis. Like animals like us, they are heterotrophs because they need to depend on other organism to make food. So this is just introduction only. We will be dealing all the major events, especially in this life process chapter. We will be dealing in detail with nutrition, respiration, circulation and excretion. Remaining process we will be dealing as an individual chapter later. Hope you understood whatever we have discussed now. So please do share, subscribe and recommend to your friends. Thank you so much.